I want to make it interactive. So first I'm going to present the changes in the diagram, and I'm going to have you comment on it. Then I'm going to present the idea of this diagram as a mirror for human lives. Okay, there is the broadcast. All right. Okay, so here is the new diagram. So I want to show you the changes first and give you the reasons for each of the changes. The first is that the idea of going from 6 to 8 came up when we looked at Carl Jung. Carl Jung has 8 functions. And at the same time, I noticed that I was dealing with Raja Yoga, which is the 4th yoga. Carl Jung's functions themselves would not change the diagram. But there are, I've been talking, the root of this diagram, how I came up with this was through Bhagavad Gita. The idea of Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. But there is a 4th yoga, Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, which is about concentration. And the way I was dealing with it is in radial fashion. I was saying that it is all about being focused on the center. So it's kind of moving along the radial. But what I realized is that that's not a good way of showing these 4 paths. So I had to integrate that. And that is essentially the NI function, or focusing on the vision, your vision of yourself, of what is it? That function is the same. And in the first draft that I came up with, that I gave preview of yesterday, I had combined that into same because I wanted to try to keep my hexagon. But then I realized that that was not the right thing to do. So it is essentially for Raja Yoga that I have added this. And moment you add this, this becomes completely equivalent to Carl Jung's functions. So all the work that has happened, that has been done on Carl Jung, I can evaluate. By the way, the meetup that I did on Myers-Briggs, I have major improvements on it based on this diagram itself, which I'll point out in a second, but it becomes equivalent to that. So that's the first thing. It goes from that. It goes from 6 to 8. Other part about being 8, you will notice that the 6-pointed star or 5-pointed star has a unity to it. It seems like 1. Whereas this one, it feels like everything is going out. And that is exactly the feeling I want to produce in the periphery. So it captures that sense too. Next one is I have replaced the polygon, the hexagon, with a circle. All the circles, see, there are 3 circles. Why is that? Because there is a oneness to you. There is a oneness to the center, and there is a oneness to periphery. And that is captured much better through a circle. It's captured perfectly in a circle. The idea of flow, because when I read Sullivan, it's all about flow, how these things flow. Things don't flow that well through this one, but this naturally flows. So that is another reason that it has moved from hexagon to circles. Notice that this is all edgy. So this is many. There is one here which is your life. There is one here, which is truth or God or center, and one here, which is the negative. Okay. So that is the reason for the circle. Now, why these 3? Because this is a very powerful point. You are living here. You have 2 choices. There is an arrow pointing in and arrow pointing out. That is the moral choice you have. Arrow pointing in is life. Arrow pointing out is death. And that is a choice along any axis that you choose. So why? So that is the arrows. Third thing is there are these three circles, 1, 2, and 3. What are these circles? So this circle, which is U, is the origin of the arrows. And the other are the endpoints of the arrows. So either you are moving towards the center, or you're turning your back on the center. And there is something, like in the Bible, it will be called the devil. It is, you're moving into nothingness. You're basically turning your back on your life. You're turning your back on your center, on your Atma, or your soul, God, whatever you want to call it, truth. So those three things, which are parallel to one another, that you can see in the diagram, dominate the diagram. So that is the next reason. The other thing is that all you have to see, the challenge here has been to try to capture everything. And there are two options I have. One is this movement, this movement, which is a circular movement. And second is the radial movement. So what I've done is that I've moved this Raja Yoga into the circular movement. Now, what I realized, and this was a point I wanted to make about the MBTI meetup, is MBTI, or cognitive functions, they talk only about strengths and weaknesses. And that is actually not correct. What this diagram is showing is that actually the three things that are there, what really matter are this, which is the beginning phase. This is a fully mature phase, and this is a destructive phase. So you can evaluate, it really doesn't, more fundamental thing than how strong you're at something is that, is this actually making your life better or worse? If you're strongly pursuing something that is making your life worse, that has a different implication morally than simply saying, okay, I'm this strong at something. So this actually captures, so I'll have a different measurement system than what is traditionally done in Myers-Briggs. And I think this is better. Let me see. Can you go ahead and remove this guy, JJ, Joe?
I think he's already removed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've deliberately cut off the sound. So, but there are two JJs. There is a good JJ and there is a bad JJ who shows up, and it's impossible to distinguish. So don't let JJ in. I will change in the future. All right. So this is, so what I'm saying is that this changes. These are kind of changes that are coming from my looking at Louis Sullivan, even before starting. So now I'm going to open it up for any comments. Go ahead. What do you guys think about moving from this diagram at the left to this diagram on the right? Go ahead and type exclamation mark or raise your hand in Zoom. Try to keep your, yeah, go ahead. Brian and or Penny.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is a couple comments. I really like what you've done. I think this, yeah, I think the 8 works a lot better. I like the circles, the integration and the explanation you gave of it. The a couple things I'd point out, you changed prudence to productivity.
That's a big question, but we are not going to discuss it today.
All right. Then the other thing is on this last bit, well, first of all, you said everything on the outside in the black is bad. I
No,
I
no,
guess-
no. I'm sorry. Let me clarify that point. It is not. So what happens if you turn your back on your life, that is bad. And if you start moving in that direction, but if you accept things that are outside and integrate into your life, you're still moving them towards the center. So your movement towards the center is good, and your movement away from the center. So yours pursuing your life, yours being conscious, yours pursuing the good, that is good. Not doing that is bad. So the way you interact with the periphery is that you use this as a filter mechanism. Think of this wall as a cell wall. You're taking in things that are nutrients that are building you up, and you're throwing out things which are poison. And there is a lot of things in there of four different kinds. But that's what it does. That answer your question?
Yes, yeah, it perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Rupali, Joe, and Evanique. Rupali.
Okay, when I saw this the circle image, it was, yes, this is it. It has this pulsating feeling to it. So it's almost like a heartbeat. I loved the one before because it had the three-dimensional aspect to it. But I also feel like this has a dynamism to it that the polygon doesn't. It just flows so well. So that's one thing. Secondly, I want to, the triangles that are pointing outwards towards the periphery, those I feel are the inverted self that Louis Sullivan talks about. And the inverted self, I mean, most of us live in that inverted self realm, and we turn our back away from the center. So I feel like this is easy to understand what the inverted selves are. And with your topics about thoughts, expression, I would like to learn more about the titles that you've given to the inverted triangles, because it's the thoughts that lead us to the actions, our expressions of things that we conceive as beauty. So I would like a little more clarity about, why you chose those particular words, because they can be positive, and yet in this case, they're taking us away from the center.
Sure. I mean, a quick explanation of it is that those are the kinds of things. So for example, thoughts integrated as wisdom are going to be positive. Thoughts which are not integrated into wisdom, which is supporting your life, are going to be destructive. So thoughts can be either way. So what the thoughts that are here are thoughts which are not here. So this is actually the area of thoughts. This is the entire area. These are unintegrated thoughts, and these are integrated thoughts. Similarly, you have expressions. These are all artistic expressions. These are the expressions which are integrated. These are the expressions which are there. Suppose these are feelings. You have all kinds of feelings here, but these are the feelings which is devotional, which is saying it's your commitment to your own life, to the core of your being. That emotion is over here. So that's why I wanted to keep all these names as neutral, not positive or negative. They continue on to this. So discipline is a way your habits are constructed so that your life, your actions are actually pursuing what you need to be doing. So, but you can have many habits which are not like that. So these are all generic terms, and the ones inside are the moral terms of what they should be. And a fantastic observation. And what was the second point you made about the inverted self? We will get into the inverted self in detail, but I'll tell you very short The idea of inverted self of Louis Sullivan is that inverted self people identify themselves with the periphery. Their thoughts that other people have, or thoughts they themselves have, their past expressions, their background. What he's saying is that the true self begins here at the core of your being by saying, I will, I am, and it shapes the forms. The function is here, it shapes the forms. In inverted self, forms are taken as primary, and actually that actually kills the center. You're refusing to see the center because forms are all that you see. Next up is Joe, followed by Evanik. Joe.
Yeah, actually, I think most of what I was going to say you just covered was the idea of the inverted self, and I like how the idea that it captures going away from the center as opposed to, going inwards. And I actually also had a similar, I've been thinking about this for a while, about how the periphery, and meaning like the example of thoughts, and by themselves, that they're not a good thing if they're not fully integrated. Just like the poem, if think but don't make thoughts your aim.
Exactly.
So that's yeah, so I had mapped that part out. There was I know you don't want to go over terms, so
Yeah, I want to keep it rapid because I have at least 3 hours of material.
okay, all right, well then we'll keep going.
Yeah.
All right.
Evanik.
Yeah, so really quickly, I like that you kept the folds, like the triangles folded into themselves, because it shows the integration aspect of it. My quick question, and I think Brian kind of brought it up, but this circle. So is there a difference between the darkness in the circle and the darkness outside of the circle?
Yes, this inside is life and outside is not life.
No, I was talking about the big circle, sorry.
Oh, no, they basically
Okay.
the same thing. It is the circle is to point that that's where you're going to end up. That's death. So
Okay.
that's not putting it there visually, you can't see it very clearly that that's going to be the end point. This is by putting the end point of the arrow of here like this, that there is an arrow end point here. The circle provides an end point. It is saying you have a choice between life and death. Life is all about focusing on the core of your being, your volition, your will, your capacity of paying attention, and doing that relentlessly. If you don't do that, then you're pursuing death. Drifting is drifting into death. Thank you. Next up is Zheng, followed by Katie. Zheng.
Yeah, I think this is a huge improvement. I'm not sure when did you have time to do all this from yesterday. Anyway, it's quite impressive. I really like the circle. I think it's all come together very nicely. The only suggestion I may have is the big circle. I think there's a difference between inside that big circle and outside. Maybe it's what I think Ram also mentioned earlier. Something is in our awareness. An outside circle is something out of our awareness. So something we don't even know exists. And then this is something maybe in our surrounding, we are aware, but then they make into our thoughts, then they into wisdom. And another thing I'm thinking, this is great. And I also wonder, because there's so many different things, is the possibility to maybe the thought and task combine into something else. I think this maybe through doing that, they'll also simplify a little bit. Just wonder, is there a way to do that too?
Well, I've basically what I've done is that the thoughts and actions have been combined into tasks.
Oh,
By saying that by applying your mind to the problem living on a large scale is what economic action is about. So that's what this is. And addressing your other point, this part, like suppose these are thoughts, right? These thoughts here, which
Mhm.
are things that you're aware of, but there are other possibilities over here, which is quite a bit. And because it is dark, I'm saying there is a lot more to it. So that's a quick answer, but we'll have plenty of time to go over this. Okay. Next up is Katie. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the visual because I'm seeing black on both sides of the feelings, attentions. There's black on both sides of it, but then there's many paths and routes and ways to come into the center. So I like how it presents itself. Wonderful. So now let me go to the second point about this diagram. And this is again, thanks to Louis Sullivan, okay? What is the diagram? What is it? The best formulation that I've come up with is that, now let me go to the next one. I don't need the comparison. What this is that this is a mirror. This is a mirror. You see this part is the glass. Okay, and this one is the mirror frame. This whole thing. So this is a mirror for you to see, to answer the question, who am I? And what should I do? So think of it this way. Joe was kind enough to give me a copy of the past version. So imagine you seeing it like this. Okay, you're seeing it like this. Okay. So you seeing this and interacting with it, okay? You seeing this and interacting with it is what this diagram is about, okay? So this is actually face-to-face, okay? This comes to the idea of face-to-face. You're coming face-to-face with yourself. It is very difficult to know yourself. So this is a tool for knowing yourself, okay? Now, I want to show you the distinction between the glass and the frame. Most people, their mirror that they use is all frame. There is no glass. And they think it's the mirror. They are looking at their own ideas of, typically it's not even their ideas, the ideas of their culture, okay? Ideas of their culture. The things that they happen to be doing at work, whatever habits that they have, whatever interactions that they have, by just geographic proximity with people, whatever feelings they happen to have, however they are directing their attention, all of that, they say, that is me. So they are looking into this mirror, but looking only at the frame. And frame has no glass. They're seeing something which is wooden, and they think that is them. That is what Louis Sullivan calls the inverted self. They identify themselves with it. When they ask the question, who am I? They're saying, oh, I'm this. I'm the frame. And the frame is dead. It is something of the past. Something typically other people have done. Or you have done in the past and are no longer active. This is the mirror. It's a moral mirror. It is saying, oh, all things in here are virtues. It has a center, which is the core of your being. So the essential choice you have, all these arrows out and in, are you going to look at the mirror? Are you going to look at yourself? Or are you pretending to look at the frame?
as you can see, so it requires the diagram is useless. It is completely useless unless a person interacts with it. Just like a mirror is useless if a person is going to just pretend to look at the mirror and just look at the frame and go away, saying, oh, I'm fine, the frame is good. They're not even looking at themselves. So that is what I think this diagram is. So now I'm going to open up any comments on this point about the diagram being a mirror. Evanik.
Yeah, so to me, when he said that, most people look at themselves and they see the frame and it's dead. And I think, outside influences, right, coming in, but then they don't break in from the inside out.
Yes.
So they don't even know. Like, I think when we come in, I think we were discussing this in maybe last Sunday, we were talking about it, and Carl Jung was like, oh no, I was looking at one of the meetups of Carl Jung, but it was saying that in a sense, we're born like kind of the outside, right? And that's all we have is outside influences. That's how we learn language. That's how we grow. We depend on that because when we're infants, obviously we're depending on adults to take care of us. So it's inevitable that you're going to start from the outside. What the issue is that most people don't ever learn to go in unless they're forced to, like when all their outside influences kind of crumble or all these other ideas, they realize it's not them, and then they take that journey and they take a conscious effort to do that. So I think that's perfect reflection in your explanation. And I just think of that, and I think of Peter Keating from Fountainhead.
Yes.
He's the perfect example of this.
Yes.
Just looking at the frame, and he's afraid to go inside because it's abandoning everything that you know, in a sense. And I forget, that was also a part of a meetup too, is that you're abandoning everything that you know.
Yes. Beautiful.
So,
Peter Keating versus Howard Rock. This is exactly that, second-handed. You're just looking at the frame and you're saying, how do I look? And you're not, there is no eye. You see the center here is the eye. There is no eye involved in Peter Keating. Wonderful. Maritza.
I like the idea of shining a mirror on some of the outermost, like, the idea of putting looking at our actions through the lens of a mirror. That's what forces us to find courage or to seek courage. So I like that, and it seems to hold true for all of them. Like, if you are looking at your thoughts in a mirror, if you're seeking something, then as you're looking at it, you're going to be seeking wisdom, which it seems like it's a natural slide towards the eye, as you've called it. It's a nice visual.
Thank you. Next up is Jeng. Jeng, what do you think?
Yeah, I what you talk really remind me, this circle, and the inside is who we truly are, our core, and the outside circle is how we interact with the society and who we are from other people point of view.
Let me come to that. There is a very detailed, very point on that.
Okay.
But that's not what this is about. No. But I'll
and I feel that, so our thought, task, all this is how we interact with the society, basically. And the inner circle is who we truly are. And our circle is what we appear to be with the society, how we, that's what I understand through this diagram.
Sure. So what Louis Sullivan will say, it is absolutely true that most people do that, but there is no reason to be doing that. So like most people deal with each other without actually looking at themselves. They're just taking on. So like there are these two people who are interacting. Both of them are looking into the mirror and seeing only the frame. and they are interacting on the basis of the frame. But there is another interaction possible between human beings where each person has an authentic I and is interacting with the authentic I of the other person. Wonderful. Next up is Brian, followed by Rupali. Brian.
I like everything that you said. I agree with it. For me, this chart diagram has more, I see more energy in it than is captured by some of your words. Like you talk about places, there's this place and that place. I see each place charged with a momentum and a direction. And in line with that, just to play out the thought, since you asked about the mirror, I was thinking about it. And when Evanique talked, it kind of struck me, just after Evanique talked, it struck me that what's around the mirror could be just not be just a frame. It could be lights of different colors, just like you've shown them. And when you stand in front of the mirror, the lights shine on your face, and
let's not confuse. Basically, then we'll have to talk about the source of lights and all of it, because this is like tremendous metaphysical ideas put into this. So let's keep that aside for now, because I want to get, look at the kind of consistency of this. So any comments on the model itself? And I will talk to you separately about.
The only thing I would say is I see a lot of energy in it.
Yes.
That isn't always flagged in your words.
Absolutely. My words are very poor. And that's why I cheat by using diagrams, because the diagrams actually carry a lot more energy. And one of the things, I'm delighted that almost everybody thinks that this has more energy to it. And a lot of it is Louis Sullivan's, kind of me reading Louis Sullivan and saying, and I'm just beginning this process. Okay, so I expect this to have a lot more energy, and it does need to have that kind of energy. This is like art. Art has to do more than what words can do, like visual arts in a single thing. So I'm using like one word over here, but the net effect of it has to be much, 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 much larger, like 100 times larger than the words that are there. And my words, my ability to speak is very poor. So my trying to capture this is very, very hard. And I'm not able to do that. So I'm using this as a tool. And I think the visual medium is extremely powerful. And it is actually better at capturing these things in an integrated way and to communicate it to other people. I'm still learning how to do it. But the energy is the core thing here. And I'm hoping and I'm working on increasing the energy of this diagram with Louis Sullivan's help. Next up is going to be Rupali, Joe, Marco,
Yeah.
and Rupali.
Hi. So I think that, when you use the circle, the mirror, and you go into that circle, what you're saying is yes to life. And when you say yes to life, then there is change. Then there's the possibility to come face to face. Otherwise, there isn't that possibility.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
that's just all that I wanted to share.
It is saying
Saying yes to life.
Yes, it is the affirmation of life. It is saying yes to life. It is saying yes to yourself. It is saying yes to the core of your being. Because otherwise, if you're just looking into the frame, you're basically turning your back on yourself. You're saying, I'm not worth even looking at. Okay, I will just look at these pretty pictures. Thank you. Next up is Joe, Marco, and Jonathan. Joe.
So just a brief comment, and maybe we won't get to this today, but I think that would be very helpful. I think mapping Martin Buber's Eternal Tao to this
let's
Yeah.
Joe, folks, just send me any kind of ideas which are kind of more general by email.
Okay.
I'm a little bit impatient. Sorry, Joe, because the thing is that I have all of this Sullivan. I've not even started the meetup. This is just the beginning. I just wanted to make this clear so that we can start talking about Sullivan. Sorry about this. But Martin Buber, you are absolutely right. That's a very deep idea of the I thou. I it, like most people are focused on it. You can see the frame is a it. It is static. It is dead. It is a effect. The mirror has energy to it. There is back and forth that you're doing with it. There is the within the diagram itself, there is a continuous rotating motion. There is a radial motion that is keeping that part going. It is interacting with you. That is the I thou. That is first saying I, and therefore you can say I thou as a result of that. Next up is going to be Marco, followed by Jonathan. Marco.
So wisdom would be like wisdom, like from reading a book, and like thoughts would be like the thoughts in my head. And so I don't like understand like the circle in between those.
So wisdom is how it is understood in the Greek tradition of saying that when you say somebody is wise, it is not about a book. It is about a person is able to look at the entire context of life and is able to guide the life using the thoughts that he has. So it's about, knowing thyself. So wisdom here in the Indian tradition is knowing the center. That's what it is about. It's like self-knowledge, like very deep self-knowledge is what wisdom is about. Okay. Next up is Jonathan, followed by Chang. Jonathan.
Hi. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen these diagrams, and I'm continuing to be impressed. It's also nice to see like the evolution. It definitely this one, it's aesthetically pleasing and contains a lot of information. One thing that sort of I like it sort of has a natural dimensionality to it. And it almost like when I look at it, I almost imagine like the triangles in the very end folding in, almost like an origami.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you've considered a three-dimensional exercise with these.
Absolutely. I'm always thinking about these things, and many people are bringing this up, kind of idea of folding, for example, or taking the center and pulling it out in 3 dimensions, of saying that you're climbing up towards the highest possible using virtue. So there are many ways of doing it. But thank you, Jonathan, and great to have you back.